Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, August 22nd, 2025. Apologies today for 3 videos. There was a lot going on, and I figured that I wanted to cover some of the news that I, planned to talk about today earlier than pushing it off another day. Notably, the one that we're talking about right now, President Obama coming out in support of Gavin Newsom's redistricting plan in the state of California. Pretty big deal. Something that I did not expect the former president to comment on, especially this immediately, months out from the election. I thought maybe there would be a final push if Democrats looks like they needed it across the finish line. But this seems to be something that also Vice President Kamala Harris is calling proud. President Obama is saying that this is something that is responsible for Democrats to do in response to the Texas Republican Party. We are in truly unprecedented times as we go into the next few months leading into the November 4th, 2025 election in California. Some pretty big names coming out in support of Gavin Newsom's redistricting appeal, which is something that I think could make a big deal on the actual election and how voters vote in this state. Now, election history-wise, Barack Obama has had some very impressive results in the state of California. In 2008, he won the state by 24 points. In 2012, he won the state by 23 points. Then, when Kamala Harris was on the ballot, she won the state by about 20 points. These are two names that are huge, not only, in the state of California, but just generally speaking, in Democratic politics. And the opinion on California's redraw has changed quite dramatically over time. The majority of Democrats on the national level back California's effort to counter Texas's map, and the majority of Democrats in the state of California likewise also support this decision. The most recent poll from Berkeley finds that 48% of respondents say that they already support the proposition. 32% oppose it, which is less actually than the vote share that Donald Trump got in the last election, while 20% remain undecided. Based on a Dem internal that was done by Gavin Newsom's team with David Binder, who did the poll here, found that 57% of respondents support it, just 35% oppose it, with 8% undecided. The numbers here are looking good. It needs a simple majority in order to pass, and across the state, the numbers look better and better as the days continue. And as more and more of the top names across the state come out and support this decision, you have both of the U.S. Senators Alex Padilla, Adam Schiff, you have a notable name, Cory Booker, and then, of course, you have the former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, Vice President Kamala Harris, both of which had served in elected office in the state of California. And then, of course, a huge name, if not one of the biggest in Democratic politics thus far, President Obama, coming out in full-fledged support. And I think this is something that will also really change the way the Democrats, not only in California, look at this, and not just, the voting base of the Democratic Party, but also elected officials who look to this and say, now there is that permission structure that has just been approved. I know people don't like that term coming off the last election, but I think it's very real insofar that if Obama, as someone who is still seen as a major player in Democratic politics, comes out and says this is the responsible approach, a lot of these elected officials who worked closely with Obama, who look up to Obama and look to this and say, well, if the former president is on our side, and Obama, who has arguably taken a much more, moderate and measured approach to a lot of circumstances surrounding the race. When he initially commented on the redraw in Texas, this was actually weeks ago when he first made comment on it, he did not come out and say that California should redraw the map. His first response was that this was something that Democrats needed to fight against, but it wasn't something that he was fully fledged in saying that Democrats need to do their own gerrymander. That's not what happened here. Now he's saying that the way that Newsom is going about it, one, by going through the voters, is something that he applauds, and two, is responsible. And seeing Vice President Kamala Harris come out and say arguably a very similar thing is a big deal. Because these are two figures that I think, being not so removed from politics, obviously former vice president and former president, but certainly to the point that they look at this and say, maybe this isn't where they make public comment on. Vice President Harris and President Obama have not been in the news as much as Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, even Joe Biden, right? And that makes sense because they aren't, as visible to that degree. And arguably, Kamala Harris's statement on this and Obama's statement on this, to me, is something that I think speaks to the fact that these principles, is, what we call them here, the vice president and the president feel so adamantly that this is something that they believe in. And I think that is why we are seeing this come out so early. It's not a last-minute push. It's not a Hail Mary that Gavin Newsom is calling in saying, please, please, please make a public statement on this because I don't think it's going to pass. They know that this is going to pass. And while it may not be a done deal, this only makes it better for the Democratic Party and only uplifts their odds at winning this battle against the GOP. When you see major Democrats come out and endorse too, it also means that other Democrats with notable personas will follow suit, right? Obama and Harris will lead the way. But so far, only 2 U.S. reps from California have come out with public support. As more of these reps go to their 41 other districts, right now Democrats have 43 seats from the state of California, they go to district by district and make the compelling argument. Get out and vote on November 4th, 2025. Get out and vote to oppose Texas and their wrong gerrymander in the state. And that's the way. This is the way that we would start to see it, because Democrats are going to start to see other Democrats really reel it in. Other Democrats are in a way going to want to jump on this bandwagon too and say, I supported this in the early stages, and therefore, Gavin Newsom, if you're president, make me Secretary of Defense. Obviously, not as clear-cut as that, but certainly to some degree, there is that conversation being had, right? When do I get out and support this? When is most beneficial? When does this best benefit the odds of this passing? Well, now we are finding that the names are coming in, and some of the biggest names in Democratic politics endorsing this is going to really rile up a lot of those voters who might otherwise say, maybe this is something I just simply can't get behind because gerrymandering is wrong and I believe it's wrong, so why would I vote for it? But then you're seeing a compelling argument to be made from Obama and Harris saying, well, it's responsible. This is the way to go back. If you want them to stop, you can't tie your hands behind your back and say, please cut me loose, while they draw the maps in front of you. And that is the way that Democrats now are starting to see that Newsom has really revealed more of this energy and this fight fire with fire spirit the Democrats have desperately seeked for. And whether or not you love Gavin Newsom, whether or not you want him to be the 2028 Democratic nominee, nobody, left or right, can deny that this is tapping into something that Democrats have not tapped into in a very long time. This energy, this, again, fight fire with fire spirit that has been so difficult for Democrats to encapsulate, to execute, and now you're finding the California Democratic delegation is doing it with the blessing and support of 2 recent party nominees that hold high regard in the eyes of the California voting base and the national Democratic voting base. California is a blue state, and with the right messaging on this, will undoubtedly pass this Proposition 50. And I don't imagine that it'll be a landslide victory like a Harris victory or a Biden victory or a Clinton victory or an Obama victory. But it will be, likely, very strong for the Democratic Party, especially given that 15 years ago, California voted by 20 points to get rid of legislators drawing their own maps. And now, it looks like they might temporarily restore that to be the possibility simply because of what Texas is doing. And so now we're seeing that voters in California are warming up to it. Democrats across the country are warming up to it. And some of the biggest, biggest thought leaders in the Democratic Party, just leaders in general, not just thought leaders, leaders in general in the Democratic Party are coming out in support of it. I think we are seeing something different. This is not a topic I think really I would have expected Vice President Harris or President Obama to immediately come out and support it. I think they would have inevitably supported it, but I don't think it would have come out this early. But it is. And that makes sense. Proposition 50 is a proposition that I think Democrats have gotten closer and closer to passing as the days continue. It started in a really dire position a month or 2 months ago and has gotten a lot better to where it is today. And by the time we reach November, I think the expectation across the board will be that California will pass this proposition. It is difficult for me to see that with a near unified Democratic Party front on this, the Republicans are able to crack through. We've seen that Kevin McCarthy has pledged that he will spend $100 million of fundraised dollars to get rid of this proposition, but I don't think it's going to happen that way. I don't think it's as clear-cut as he thinks. That's not just the way that voters, vote. Just because Kevin McCarthy is raising money and spending it in the state doesn't mean they're going to vote the way you want them to. California's Proposition 50 will be decided by and for the voters. And as these major endorsements reel in, it only benefits the Democratic Party and makes it this much more likely the Democrats see the passing of this come November 4th. So Don't want to spend too much more time talking about Proposition 50 today. I think that there are a lot of different, Democratic elected officials that will likely jump on this bandwagon and come out in support of it. But I do think that undoubtedly it is pretty major news that President Obama and Vice President Harris have come out and said that they support this redistricting play, that they believe that this is the responsible and measured approach. And seeing their endorsements will matter a lot, especially to Democrats that might find themselves on the fence, that might be able to be willing to look past that given the stakes of the 2026 midterms, as some of the most prominent Democrats make that argument for them in a way that Gavin Newsom might not have been able to, or that other Democrats might be able to as well, as they jump on the bandwagon and follow suit with these major endorsements leading the way. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, and then a playlist for my 2025 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.